let's move over. So Denver is messed up out in these streets, all right? So Denver is proposing that they cut at least 15% of their budget, of their city budget, in order to make sure that they support the migrant crisis. All right, so hold on. Let me back up for a minute because I want to make sure I do a little bit of research. Denver budget. No information is available for this page. Proposed budget. All right, let me pull this up really quickly. Before we get into watching the video, we might have to do a little bit of research. So Denver annual proposed budget. This came in September. So they I guess they come in to propose a completely new budget. Oh, they got a more recent one. Hold on, let me go back. 2024 revised budget. Come on, baby. Page left blank. Well, let me look at this. All right. Mayor budget message, explanation of document, budget highlights. That's on 47. All right, let's go down to 47. This is 47. That's 25. See if we can get down to 47 real quick. $68, $38, $43. Why does this keep doing that? All right, let's do this because this is 828 pages. See if we can find what we're looking for. All right, so here's the budget highlights. 2024 budget for all appropriated funds, less duplications for the city of Denver is $4 billion, an increase of almost 1% from the revised 2023 budget. The revised budget includes unspent appropriation from 2022, which means that they had a surplus, I'm assuming, back then. It is likely that the unspent appropriation will be available in 2024. There is no estimate on additional budget. There is a total budget of $3.1 billion for all operating funds, 1.8% increase over the 2023 revised budget. Grants, American Rescue Plan Act. Budget remains reserves in all funds within the city's financial policies, including $108 million required debt service payments on outstanding general obligation debt. City's main operating fund is proposed to increase to $1.74 billion, up 3.78%. From 2023. Then it goes into the general fund, all of the details or whatever. Okay, so Denver obviously is much different than New York and Chicago because Chicago and New York budget be in the billions, all right? Especially New York. New York's budget be in the hundreds of billions. So even though they won a 2023 championship from the Denver Nuggets, the budget is now under duress based off of the migrant crisis, okay?
Only on Fox, our one-on-one interview with Denver's Mayor Mike Johnston. He tells us that the migrant crisis could cost the city of Denver $180 million just this year.
That's a lot of money.
Now remember what the budget was. The budget was $4.06 billion. $4.06 billion, okay? Obviously, the total budget, the general for the all operating funds was $3.1 billion, okay? And they're allocating over $180 million just to the migrant crisis, which they anticipate to keep growing, okay?
And here's the thing, he's asking city departments to cut up to 15% from their budgets to cover that cost. Well, what does that mean for city services? Will people have to lose their jobs? Fox 31's Carly Moore is on it. She's live in Denver this morning. And we really don't have a ton of answers to those questions yet, do we?
We really don't. Kirk, Ashley, good morning. But we do know that because of this migrant crisis, city services are going to have to squeeze. The mayor calling it a dilemma, just the details kind of few and far between at this point. But here's what you need to know this morning. So just a few hours after the mayor announced this to City Council, the mayor explained the details to our Jeremy Hubbard on a tour of cleaned up encampment sites. He's looking to cut $180 million, that's about 15% of the city budget, to deal with the migrant crisis. For perspective, $180 million. That's more than the entire budget for the Department of Parks and Recreation, more than the entire budget for the city's housing and homeless efforts all combined. The city has already paid $38 million to respond to this crisis. And if things don't change, the bill in 2024 will be even bigger.
As a department head, your goal is always how to find the things you can cut that don't directly impact services as much as possible. We don't want to close down rec centers or stop picking up trash or paving the streets or take officers off the streets. And so we got to prioritize in that. But so what they'll do now is take a hard look at their budgets and see what their options are. And we'll come back and look at them and see what we could do without trying to really directly impact the city as much as possible.
So, isn't it funny? And I guess I'm gonna throw black people a bone right now. And I'm only throwing y'all a bone because I know that y'all like to run in the Victim Olympics, and we can use this as an example so we can have a bigger conversation. Isn't it funny how they're able to find $180 million for the things that's convenient to them at the time? Now, they're providing us no explanation as to why they became a sanctuary city in the first place, why it was meaningful for them to make this type of investment into these migrants in the first place. And again, when you think about budgets, think about it from the perspective of moving numbers around, right? It's like accounting. It's a trick. It's a game. Make it much more simple because this is the Millionaire Morning Show, and I like to help y'all to understand how the game works from a C student's perspective. Think of something that you really wanted to do, right? Let's say you wanted to go shopping. Ladies, I know it's a lot of ladies. Shout out to the churches. Shout out to the daycares. Let's say you wanted to go shopping, right? And you say, well, I really, really wanted this thing, right? And I really wanted to get this stuff from Bed Bath & Beyond. And then I also wanted to go and get this stuff from Bath & Body Works. And then I also wanted to redo the stuff that was in the cabinet. So I'm going to take $1,000 of the money that we was using, and I'm going to just go shopping, skip it. I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to deal with it later, right? And then as you drive home, this is how budgets work within municipalities, in regular life, in corporate America, the whole thing, right? Because I'm answering a question to you guys specifically about how they're able to find the money. And we got to relate it back to our own lives in order to really understand how they do it within politics, right? And so you go and you spend $1,000 and you get all of the things that you've been wanting to get for a long time and throw a little bit more in there for yourself. So you're going to hide a couple things inside of them bags. You're going to collapse one bag, put one under. I know what y'all be doing. You might leave something in your trunk until he go to work, and then you're going to try to remember to go and get it back out of your trunk when he go to. I know what you do. I know the games that women play. I've been coaching people for a long time, all right? So the $1,000, because nobody is going to do a real audit. So you spent $1,000, right? And this is how you find the money. You justify it by saying, well, I would have did this anyway, so we just going to go ahead and make the adjustment. It's like a gambler. A gambler will go out and they will lose their money. Let's say they lose their rent money or something, right? Or they lose a little bit of money, or they lose whatever it is that they brought. And they say, well, I just would have went and spent it on cigarettes anyway, or I would have just went out and just had fun and blew it out in the streets anyway, so it's just a wash. You start to make it make sense in your mind in order to justify the bad behavior that you just exhibited and the irresponsibility that came along with it. So they always had the ability to go and find the things that they needed in order to fund the things that they wanted to fund, but they couldn't justify it until they were forced to. It's similar to you, right? If you really wanted to, your budget is not truly a budget that's reflective of a person that's really operating on their needs. It's reflective of a person that's operating what they want, but they're justifying their needs. So you want to live in a bigger house. You want to drive a bigger car. You want to go out to eat all the time. But you say, well, we need money for food. No, you don't need money to do what you want to do for food, but you're doing creative accounting. So you'll take some money and really that's leisure money. Going out to eat is a luxury. It's not a need. Eating is a need, but then you move the food category over into you move the going out to eat category over into the food category so that you can justify doing what you want to do. Now that's not a need, but that's what we in the industry call creative accounting. It's called creative accounting. So then when y'all get a coaching call and I'm going over your budget and then I ask you to break it down for me a little bit more to help me see, you can't finesse me. You can't finesse me. Just because you move the out to eat money into the food budget don't mean that I'm going to let that stay there, because that is called creative accounting. You finessing yourself. You're not even finessing me. You finessing yourself. So then when people then go back and they say, well, how can they justify cutting the budget and spending $180 million on this thing, whatever? They already had it. They're just now doing creative accounting in order to justify their bad actions so that they can say, well, we balanced the budget. No, you didn't. You messed up the money, because you should have never had a crisis on your hand in the first place, and we wouldn't be sitting here operating at a deficit instead of operating at a surplus. So then when your husband comes to you or your wife come to you and they say, listen, we make over $100,000 a year. Why are we living paycheck to paycheck? It's called creative accounting. Did I break it down to you from a C student's perspective? Got you. Let's continue.
Now, the influx of migrants continues to grow. More than 4,800 migrants are being temporarily housed by the city right now. More than 37,000 have been transported here in the last year. Now, the mayor says without the help of neighboring cities, those cuts might even have to be even more severe. He adds that 7 buses of migrants arrived just this weekend. Really, frankly, the city's running out of room. So really, they're looking into other options. Instead of housing these people, they're looking to possibly just getting them a ticket out of town. Live in Denver.
Let's not skip over that last part. I'm going to play that for y'all one more time because I don't want y'all to be bamboozled. I want y'all to be aware of what's going on out in these streets. Listen to what they said. They slipped that last part in. Mike Johnson slipped that last part in. Listen, y'all.
Instead of the city's running out of room. So really, they're looking into other options. Instead of housing these people, they're looking to possibly just getting them a ticket out of town.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that they're looking to do the exact same thing that they're complaining about with Greg Abbott? Oh, no. Yeah. They said, listen, we're now going to allocate the budget. And it makes sense if you really think about it. The best way for it to make sense is to say that we're not a sanctuary city at all. But see, the thing that we don't know here on the ground floor as residents and citizens that actually pay the money into the coffers that they use in order to do all of this creative accounting in the first place, we don't know what the real agenda is. I mean, we can try to figure it out. We can use our context clues, but we can't substantiate it with hard evidence. So we basically just shooting in the dark. We can say we doing it so that they can continue to stay in power. We can say they doing it to fit into a bigger agenda. They left the borders open in order to try to negotiate for more money as far as the war with over in Taiwan with China, Ukraine, Israel. They made some promises they can't keep. Lobbyists and some people that's going to benefit as a result of it. We can make a whole lot of claims, but we can't necessarily pinpoint it and say definitively because we don't have any evidence, right? And so that's the real way to solve for it, is saying, listen, we not a sanctuary city no more, and you can't keep sending people over to us because we actually support the idea of closing the borders. But instead, they're going to now say, well, we can actually save more money because if we've earmarked $180 million in order to continue to support the migrant crisis, it would be much cheaper for us to just buy you a ticket, because then we ain't got to house you. We ain't got to pay for services. We don't have to educate you. We don't have to give you health care coverage. We ain't got to deal with all of this other stuff that come along with it. It's cheaper to get rid of you than it is to continue to house you. That's when you say it's not cheaper to keep her. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. See, we getting somewhere. This is why it's called the Millionaire Morning Show, but from a C student's perspective.
Denver Mayor Mike Johnston is asking every city department to prepare to cut their budgets, as the city thinks it might spend 10 to 15% of its general fund this year helping migrants.
We did sit down with agency heads yesterday and ask them to start preparing to evaluate ways in which they can absorb $180 million of cuts in the 2024 budget.
The mayor says new arrivals are not slowing down. 7 more buses arrived from the border this week. The city set up 9 shelter sites for migrants, and Johnston says they're all full.
Means that we have now filled all of the space that we have for sheltering in the city and county. We have filled every single hotel site that we have and the 2 congregate sites that we added. And so we do not have space to add more folks that arrive, nor do we have staff to support them, nor do we have resources to support them.
So the city's trying to move migrants out of those congregate shelters, connecting them with housing applications, even offering to pay up to 3 months' rent for people without jobs. The mayor's now saying that unless something changes, Denver may turn to offering all newly arriving migrants paid transportation to other cities. That's a process that's drawn anger from places like Chicago and New York.
Now, you know why it's drawing anger from places like Chicago and New York? Is because they all stood in solidarity, baby. Yes, they did. It was Mike Johnson, Karen Bass. It was Eric Adams, Brandon Johnson, Atlanta mayor. All of them was over there in Washington, D.C., signing that paperwork, standing in solidarity. And they said, listen, we're going to put some pressure on Biden in order to give us this money. We're going to put some pressure on Cam to give us this money. Now, Mike Johnson, I got to give him some credit. He said, listen, I F with y'all. I like you, Brandon. We both got similar last names. Yo, Eric, I don't really care for how you moving, but you reading at a 3rd grade reading level, but we going to get there for you. I'm a little smarter than y'all. He said, listen, we might have to send them to some other cities. And then Chicago and New York said, don't send them over here. Oh, dog, I know you ain't trading on this. Mike said, listen, every man for themselves. Another edition of the white man turning against you. Listen. Next thing you know, you're going to see Brandon Johnson and Eric Adams saying that it's the white man that turned against me. Yeah. Then it's going to be white on black crime. It's going to be Greg Abbott and Mike Johnston against Brandon Johnson and Eric Adams. Oh, my God. What a matchup. That's going to be bigger than any matchup that you guys can think of.